Hey, I'm Gene Goldman. Here's a look at the week ahead for the week of August 19th. This week, it's all about one thing, the Federal Reserve, the Fed. So this week, we get two important pieces of information from the Fed. Wednesday, we get the meeting minutes from the Fed's last meeting from the end of July. And as a reminder, this release discusses what's said behind closed doors at that meeting. And then later in the week, the Fed travels to Jackson Hole, Wyoming for their annual symposium. And within this Jackson Hole meeting, on Friday, Fed Chairman Jay Powell speaks at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's discuss this week what we may hear from both of these events, the meeting minutes and Jay Powell's speech. So if you go back to the last Fed meeting at the end of July, in the statement from this meeting, the Fed laid out a possible groundwork for a potential rate cut at the next meeting in September. Also, after being so laser focused the past 2 years on slowing inflation, the Fed in their statement also alluded to the fact that they are now attentive to possible risks facing the labor market. So from the meeting minutes on Wednesday, we want to learn specifically what data concern the Fed and how strong are they committed to a September rate cut. Now, turning to the Jackson Hole meeting and the Powell speech, there is so much hope that Powell will offer insight on whether or not the Fed will cut rates by either 1/4 or 0.5% at the next meeting in September. Unfortunately, I wouldn't hold your breath. Remember, number one, the Fed is very data dependent. So before the next Fed meeting, we get a ton of data. We get like the August payroll report, we get CPI reports. And both of these reports are going to weigh heavily in terms of how much the Fed cuts rates. Especially the labor market will be in focus after the terrible payroll report we saw just a couple weeks ago. Second of all, recent comments from Powell, he has said that the Fed has not discussed cutting rates by 0.5%. So it probably doesn't make sense for Jay Powell to preempt the rest of the Fed by announcing a potential 0.5 point rate cut here at this meeting. Powell instead will likely focus on how data dependent the Fed is and what they're looking for in terms of watching the impact of high rates on the labor market and the overall economy. So the big takeaway this week, with the Fed likely to cut rates at their next meeting in September, this is a big week for Fed policy. We get the meeting minutes and we get the Jackson Hole speech. The Fed is shifting away from a laser focus on slowing inflation via any means possible into much more of a focus on the other part of their dual mandate to also maximize employment. So this week, let's hope we get clarity on what the Fed is thinking in terms of the impact of high rates on the overall economy. Thank you for listening. For more information, please follow us on X at SateraIM, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.